Hi, this is Bridget with Life on Spectrum, and today I'm going to talk to you about riding the train and also riding the subway. They're very similar. I do understand that sometimes there's not subways available in your area. However, it might be helpful for you when you go into a larger city. First and foremost, I want you to understand that a lot of people on the spectrum, girls and boys, love trains. Even as they were younger, they always liked Thomas and all those kind of things. So believe it or not, riding a train is generally one of the common public transportations that they do not complain about. A lot of people do have those misconceptions that because of the clanking and the clinking that they may not like it because of sensory issues. But you also have to understand that even trains and subways have that rocking motion of back and forth generally. And it's almost like a soothing motion for them. My son loves riding the train and the subway because of that motion. The one thing that he's kind of hesitant about is stepping off and on the train because of the gap between the tracks in the train. However, if you ride Amtrak, not to do a public thing, but if you ride Amtrak, believe it or not, they actually have one part of the train that always has a section that folds out, so you can't see that gap in between. And it's usually towards the back, towards the business section. So keep that in mind because that's where my son likes to go off and on the train. The other thing I want to mention about the train and transportation is making sure that they understand the schedules. Trains, believe it or not, have a very simple schedule. A lot of times it is Amtrak in our I guess most of the United States. There's actually an app that you all have to do is put in the date, and then they can pick the date and the time, and it's actually quite easy. My son prefers riding it in the afternoon because there's actually fewer people, but he's become, now that he's older, he'll actually ride it at any time. But just keep that in mind that the later in the day, especially 5 to about 8 or 9, it can actually be quite crowded because of people going back and forth. The other thing about subways is there's apps now for almost every major city. You can actually download an app for free for that city, and you can put in where you're at and where you'd like to go, and actually will tell you details of what to do. So it might be the orange track number 2, and then you get off at such and such station, and then that will get you where to go. My son actually enjoys that, and no matter when we go to the city, that's his job, and he's actually really good at it, and actually is better at it than my parents. So they actually enjoy taking him to the city because of that reason. He's really good about it. Also, riding with the train and the subway, we always put down ground rules. Once again, you don't talk to anybody unless they talk to you first. You can always use your headphones. If you're riding like a rider train, like to a different location, then make sure that you always flush and wash your hands, those basic things. And like I said, I also actually go over questions with him when he first started riding the train. Like, who would you ask if you had a question? You would not look for a guy with the hat or whatever the case may be. You can go online, and usually they have some kind of identification, whether it's a name tag or a hat or a different type of jacket. So keep that in mind. By the way, riding the train was actually very simple with my son. The first time that he rode the train, I actually rode with him to Philadelphia, and we actually went to a museum, and then we came back later that evening. And that was his first experience. And believe it or not, from then on, he actually asked me to ride the train once by himself. What's nice about us is his father lives in Philadelphia, and it's only about an hour apart. So we crossed our fingers, put him on the train, and I literally followed the train for at least part of the way because, of course, I'm a nervous mom. But as soon as he got off the train, he knew to text both me and his dad that he was there. And as long as you put in precautions and you put in different rule sets, you got to let him fly a little bit. The first time he did do on the train also, I put a child tag on him. He was very embarrassed because he was like 16, but I didn't care. And a child tag is just to keep an eye out, kind of like when you're on an airline, and they'll know where their stop is and make sure they get off. So after I did it once, I never made him do it again because he knew what he was doing and he knew where he was going. And believe it or not, he's never had an incident at all on the train. He actually really enjoys it. So keep the train in mind. And by the way, he's traveled about 4.5 hours on train and never had an incident. So they love trains and subways. Keep that in mind. I'm Bridget with Life on Spectrum, and that's trains and subways. Thanks for watching that episode, and make sure you come back and join us again for upcoming videos. They'll be uploaded almost on a daily basis. Also, if you really enjoyed us, like us below, or even leave a comment for us to respond back to. And if for all of you that are really involved in the Life on Spectrum, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate you. We hope that this is worthwhile for you, and we'll see you next time on Life on Spectrum.